in the media conference with Lal Goyal, which is brought to you by V4 News, Global TV, V4 Stream, Malnadu TV India, News Gaon se, Samvad Sarokar News, Bharat Post News, Organ Donation India Foundation and Gyan. Our endeavor is to enlighten you with the current topic. And today's topic is not only current, but very, very relevant. And the topic is infertility, myths and facts. Infertility is the inability of a person, animal or plant to reproduce by natural means. It is usually not the natural state of a healthy adult, except notably among certain eusocial species. In humans, infertility is the inability to become pregnant after 1 year of intercourse without contraception involving a male and female partner. There are many causes of infertility, including some that medical intervention can treat. Estimates from 1997 suggest that worldwide about 5% of all heterosexual couples have an unresolved problem with infertility. Many more couples, however, experience involuntary childlessness for at least 1 year. Estimates range from 12% to 28%. Male infertility is responsible for 20 to 30% of infertility cases, while 20 to 35% are due to female infertility, and 25 to 40% are due to combined problems in both parts. In 10 to 20% of cases, no cause is found. The most common cause of female infertility is ovulatory problems, which generally manifest themselves by sparse or absent menstrual periods. The most frequent cause of infertility today in Occidental population is delay of maternity, because the quality of oocytes decreases dramatically with age, especially after 35 years. Male infertility is most commonly due to deficiencies in semen, and semen quality is used as a surrogate measure of male fecundity. Women who are fertile experience a natural period of fertility before and during ovulation, and they are naturally infertile for the rest of the menstrual cycle. Fertility awareness methods are used to discern when these changes occur by tracking changes in cervical mucus or basal body temperature. As per World Health Organization, infertility is a disease of the reproductive system defined by the failure to achieve a clinical pregnancy after 12 months or more of regular unprotected sexual intercourse, and there is no other reason such as breastfeeding, etc. Primary infertility is infertility in a couple who have never had a child. Secondary infertility is a failure to conceive following a previous pregnancy. Infertility may be caused by infection in the man or woman, but often there is no obvious underlying causes. And there are now many treatment or methods which are to be used by the doctors, and one of them is IVF. In the mid-1800s, scientists finally discovered the process of artificial fertilization using a combination of sperm and egg. In the 1900s, fresh pieces of research on hormones and how they related to fertility began more frequently. Through around then, IVF-like researches were performed on rabbits. In 1965, Dr. Jones worked with Dr. Edwards of England and fertilized the first human egg in vitro, all the world's first IVF baby. After 3 years, in 1968, Dr. Edwards joined Dr. Patrick Steptoe in England and performed a laparoscopy surgery to retrieve an egg and fertilize it in vitro in the lab. The results were published in 1969. In 1973, the first pregnancy through IVF was reported from Monash University by Carl Wood, and it was biochemical pregnancy. In 1976, an ectopic pregnancy was reported by Patrick Steptoe and Robert Edwards. Then in 25th July 1978, IVF saw its first birth by Patrick Steptoe and Robert Edwards. It took 102 IVF cycles to achieve this first successful IVF birth. The couple, Leslie and Peter Brown, became the parents to a healthy daughter, Louise Joy Brown, the world's first test tube baby. Second IVF baby was born in India. Durga Elias Kanupriya Agrawal on October 3rd, 1978. The pioneer was Dr. Subhash Mukhopadhyay. According to Indian Society of Assisted Reproduction, infertility currently affects about 10 to 14% of the Indian population, with higher rates in urban areas where 1 out of 6 couples is impacted. Nearly 27.5 million couples actively trying to conceive suffer from infertility in India. Now, to discuss this very, very important topic, the infertility myths and facts, we have a very elite, very knowledgeable, well experienced, and those who are authority in this field panelist with us. And I would like to, generally, I take Dr. Rajiv Anand as the first panelist, but because so many good panelists are there, although every time very good panelists come, but Dr. Rajiv Anand himself requested me, rather asked me, not request is the wrong word. He asked me to consider him in the last, take the experts in this field before him, so that he will give his concluding remarks. And I'm sure that he is expert in giving those remarks very nicely. I would like to invite my first panelist guest, and she is Professor Dr. Vinita Das. Dr. Vinita Das is a renowned infertility specialist. She is the ex-dean and head of the department OB/GYN, King George Medical University, Lucknow. She is the past president, Lucknow OB/GYN Society. She is the founder president, Lucknow chapter, ISOPARB. She's worked extensively with Ministry of Health and Government of India in formulation national guidelines for women health, antenatal care, and labor and delivery. She received various national and international awards. She published more than 150 papers and 80 research projects in reputed national and international journals. Welcome, Professor Dr. Vinita Das. Professor Dr. Vinita Das, you have so much experience and you are such a senior doctor. Definitely, we would like to know from you your views on infertility myths and facts. Professor Dr. Vinita Das, please.
Thank you, Mr. Goel. And good morning to all my friends. I bring greetings from Lucknow. So, as the topic has been introduced by Mr. Goel, we are talking today about various aspects of infertility. Specifically, I will be taking some myths and facts about male infertility. As Mr. Goel has told, that if you see in general society, about 10 to 15% couples suffer from infertility. And infertility is taken as a taboo in the society for ages. There is always a desire of procurement, having a child in the family. And if there is no child in the family, it definitely affects the well-being of the couple, of the family, of the society. And if you see, mainly, it's always the female who is dragged and who is made responsible that probably the conception is not occurring because there is some problem in the female partner. I just want to clarify. Let me take few myths one by one. The most important myth, which in general public mind, is that male partner is not responsible for infertility, for not having a child in the family. Let me clarify, this is not the fact. 30% of problems of infertility is because of the male partner only. And about 30% is because of the female partner problems. And 30 to 40% are combined problems in the male and female. So if you see, the male partner is responsible for about 40 to 50% of infertile couple for not having a child. So let me clarify with the fact that male partner is very much responsible. Rather, we can say the men and women both are responsible for having a child or not having a child in the family. So this myth that male is not responsible for infertility should go away. We have to create an awareness that male partner is equally responsible for no procurement in the family. Okay, let me take a second myth. It is a general belief that the semen and the sperms are taken as synonymous. So we have to understand that semen has got a lot of things. The sperm is one of the very important component of the semen, but along with the sperms, there are other secretions from the accessory glands which are present in the semen, which forms the bulk of the semen, like the secretions from the seminal vesicle, the secretions from the prostate gland, secretions from the bulbourethral glands. So all these in combined forms the semen. So sperm is a component of the semen. So like so many times people think that if the external appearance of the semen is normal, then it means the quality of the sperm is also good. So this is the third myth which comes in the mind, and it is not so. If the external appearance of the semen is normal, it does not always translate into good sperm quality. Because for the good sperm quality, there are so many factors. In the semen, there are so many factors which adversely affect the sperm quality, like ROS, reactive oxygen species, that prostaglandins. There's so many other things which are good for the maturation of the sperm, but there are so many factors which are present which adversely affect the maturation of the sperm. And that is why whenever an artificial insemination is done, we have to process the semen, because we have to take out those factors which are present in the semen, which are adversely affecting the maturation of the sperm, and it cannot be neatly inseminated into a female partner. So if you see the quality of the sperms, there are so many factors which are important, and that I want to emphasize that one of the very important component of the evaluation of the infertile couple, first is the examination of the male partner, the physical examination of the genital organs, the size of the testes, and the second very important thing, which usually people don't think, and the male partner shrugs away with the responsibility, that they are not ready for the semen analysis, semen examination. That is one of the very important component, the semen analysis, because the sperm count, the vitality of the sperms, the motility of the sperm, the morphology of the sperm, the quantity of the semen, all these are very important factor and they affect fertility. So I want to convey this message to all my friends, to all my listeners, all the delegates, that whenever you evaluate infertile couple, the evaluation of the female partner is important, but along with that, the evaluation of the male partner is equally important. The physical evaluation, and the first and the foremost thing is semen analysis. That has to be done. That has to be done in an accredited lab. That has to be done by a trained andrologist who have got the knowledge of evaluating the different aspects of the sperms. Because as we know, by the normal values, the count there has to be a cutoff of the count, because the external appearance of the semen is normal, but the count is low, less than 15 million per annum. And in those cases, it will affect the fertility. The motility is less than 40%. The morphology, normal morphology is less than 4%. In all those cases, the chances of conception decreases. At times, there occurs the detailed evaluation of the morphology, the genetic material, the presence, the absence of the vacuole, the size of the vacuole, the cytoplasm of the sperm. So all these things becomes very important. In nutshell, I just want to emphasize the evaluation of the sperms, detailed evaluation is one of the very important things. On the contrary, there is a myth that at some times now the people are very intelligent, they are very well read, they go to the Google before you come to the infertility specialist, they go to the Google doctor and they search all those things. And they start demanding, doctor, why don't you do IMSI in my case? Why don't you do PIXI in my case? Why don't you do DNA fragmentation? Now, we doctors have to see that what is needed in what patient. There is a lot of myth that a very high sophisticated test will give a good conception rate. It is not so. We have to see what is needed in that patient. What is abnormal in that patient. It is not so that a very costly test, like if you are doing intrauterine insemination, often patients ask that you can do microfluidic. Now they have heard just the name of microfluidic semen preparation method. It does not mean that every patient needs. It increases the cost tremendously, and there is no need. A simple washing and centrifugation may be enough for semen preparation for that patient. Another myth is that a neat semen can be instilled in case if there is a problem in the sperm in the female partner. Now, I want to emphasize that a neat semen should not be instilled, should not be used for insemination. You have to process the semen. You have to take out all those adverse factors, the seminal fluid, the prostaglandins, because otherwise, if you instill a neat semen without processing it, it will cause, there will be prostaglandins, it will cause uterine contractions, it will change the uterine milieu, it may adversely affect the sperm quality because of the presence of ROS. So all these factors are present. It should never be instilled. But there is certain indication also. The latest literature has come that in cases of psychosexual problem in the male partner, when they are not able to establish the contact with the female, in those cases, the neat semen can be collected by the female herself and can be instilled in the vagina. So this may be one of the conditions where the neat semen at home by self-installation can be done. Now, I was talking about the a close relationship between the male and female partner. There is another very important myth that the male partner comes out and they say that because the sexual activity is normal, so my fertility potential is normal. We have, and they are not ready for the semen analysis. They are not ready for the detailed evaluation. Now, we all have to understand that these two are, although interrelated, but these are two different components. The sexual activity may be normal. Even then, the sperm quality may not be good, or there may be azoospermia, the absence of sperms. So, even if the sexual activity is normal, it does not mean, it does not say that the procurement or the conception will definitely be there. Even in that situation, the semen analysis and detailed examination is very important. There are certain conditions like abnormality in the pituitary, abnormality in the spermatogenesis in the testes, different types of microdeletion syndrome, or one of the very important genetic disorder is congenital bilateral absence of vas difference. And in these situations, and how do we know that it is there? Because once you do the semen analysis, you will find there is an absence of sperms. And in those situations, you have to do evaluation and rule out the causes step by step. And if this is present, this is a genetic problem. The female partner as a carrier has to be also examined for the CFTR gene mutation. And in those cases, we have to counsel the couple. We have to counsel the male and the female partner that there can be transmission in the offspring also. So there are so many factors present. For this, a general belief should not be taken into account, but rather a great evaluation by a specialist of the male partner is mandatory before we go ahead with a very sophisticated test. So I have dealt with these things. Let me see what are the other myths which are present in general. Mr. Goel now a few minutes back told that the female age is very important, and as the age progresses, the fertility of the female declines and the number of the ovum production decreases. But This is a very great misconception, and the male partner thinks that they can father at any age. The exceptions are there definitely, but it does not generalize. So the male fertility also decreases. The erectile dysfunction, the production of the sperm, they also decreases as the age of the male partner advances, especially after 40 years, the spermatogenesis, the erectile dysfunctions, they do appear. And not only this, there are so many diseases which crop up. The diabetes and hypertension, these two are very common. They do affect the fertility potential. Not only that, they directly affect the fertility potential, the drugs taken for the management of these diseases, they also affect the fertility potential. They also affect the spermatogenesis. They also affect the erectile functions. So we have to understand, and we have to create awareness in our younger generation that the male partner age is equally important as the female partner age. Another very important myth, if you see our sports persons, what to make the muscle mass and to increase the exercise potential, lot of time they take steroids and testosterone. And it is general belief and the myth that if the fertility potential is less in the male partner, then by taking testosterone, everything can be corrected. Now, this is a very big myth. As such, testosterone should not be taken at all. Once taken, it by negative feedback suppresses the hypothalamo-pituitary axis and decreases the formation of the sperms. And once taken for a longer time, it might damage your testes permanently, and you will not be able to produce sperm at all. Even if taken for 6 months or so, you have to stop it, and it takes about an year or so to come back to its normal potential. So it is very important to counsel them that self-medication, especially of the drugs, testosterone, which is a general belief that if you take testosterone, everything will be corrected. That's a very big myth, and testosterone should not be taken at all. There are certain drugs which are used in females like clomiphene citrate. I have seen prescriptions of so many general practitioners giving clomiphene citrate to male partner to increase the increase the quality of the sperms. It should not be generally used. There are specific indications. There are specific indications for giving clomiphene citrate, in what doses, when it has to be given. So I just want to emphasize that the general use self-medication has to be avoided. And these patients have to be referred to a specialist for what is and the evaluation is very important. If we come to another myth, our urology friends, usually the gynecologist or the infertility specialist, are very skeptical of examining the male partner. And whenever there is any issue, they refer to the urologist. And our urologist colleagues are not so well trained for andrology. It is often taken as synonymous urology and andrology, although it is a very specialized field and a very specialized training is needed. So like a very small example of a myth is varicocele. If you do not find any cause and you think that why the conception is not occurring, there's some problem in the male, and if you just do ultrasonographic evaluation of the testes. Now, this is not to be done. A general universal screening by ultrasound of the testes is not recommended at all. There is a very specific indication for doing surgical intervention for varicocele. A general surgical intervention to treat varicocele is not indicated. This is a very big myth. There's very specific indication, like if the clinically visible moderate to severe variety of varicocele is present, and you are not able to find out any cause in the female partner or there is any cause in the male partner, only then the surgical intervention is needed. So unnecessarily surgery to treat a mild variety of varicocele is totally contraindicated. It should not be done. Now, coming to another factor, let me see a very often the infertile couple they insist on whenever there is some problem in the semen and the sperm quality is not good or there is azoospermia, the patients and the family also insist. And the general belief is, let us do donor insemination. Or they press the specialist that we want to give semen of the family members because we want to have same genetic material of the family for the procreation. And they say, my brother or my father or somebody in the family, my nephew will give the semen. Now we all infertility specialists or the general practitioners, because IUI is a very simple procedure, can be done by our medical colleagues if the slight training and all the proper equipment and clinic is accredited. So I want to emphasize that first thing, the relative semen sample is not to be used, not at all. The semen sample has to be taken from accredited ART bank. It has to be screened for certain diseases. In our India, as per our bill for ICMR guidelines, it has to be screened for hepatitis B, for HIV, for thalassemia trait. It has to be quarantined for 6 months. Only then it can be used. There is proper procedure which has to be followed. So just walking in your clinic and insisting for taking the semen of some of the relative and doing intrauterine insemination is totally discouraged. They have to be made aware that this is not correct. This is not to be done. Otherwise, at one point of time, you might be illegally, you might be sued in the court of law, and this is illegal. So it is not to be done.
Thank you very much, Dr. Das, for giving such a elaborate and informative and knowledgeable opening things. And what she says, I will just highlight few. One, she says that the myth is that male is not infertile. Male is fertile, the women is infertile. But this is myth. And she says male is as responsible as woman. Myth is not responsible means male, they say the semen is there. So why there is infertility? According to Dr. Das, there is sperm and the quality of a sperm which matters. You might be having good semen, but it doesn't mean that you have a good sperm. So all these things are required. Evaluation of both is required by the doctor. And she very categorically says, please don't consult the Google doctor, because people are going either for WhatsApp University or to Google doctor, and they then insist the doctor to do those procedures which are otherwise not prescribed or not required at all. And even your sexual activity is normal, but doesn't mean that you are fertile enough to produce a child. So all these things, and very important point which she has mentioned is that the myth is that because of the women's age, now the age cannot be for the women is not fertile, but she says even the male, because of certain reasons. One is about the diabetes, hypertension, and because of the drugs which we are consuming to cure those things or to keep those things under check, are affecting our semens or the sperm quality. So all these things. And one last point I would like to say about her, 2 points rather. One is the testosterone. She says, no, that medicine should not be prescribed by everyone, and no one should take it without consulting a infertility expert. Otherwise, it may harm more than it will give you any advantage. And she also mentioned one thing: don't try to insist the doctor to take the relatives' semen, because it is not allowed. It is illegal, because there is a system that the semen has to be preserved, quarantined for 6 months, tested for everything, and then only it is allowed to come from the accredited or recognized laboratory. So all these things, according to Dr. Das, so many myths are there, but one should be very clear. I'm sure that our viewers are very enlightened by that what she has mentioned about those myths, although there are more myths. But definitely I would like to come back again, because we would like to give the chance to other panelists also. Thank you very much, Dr. Das, for giving such a elaborate you have explained about the myths and what are the facts. Thank you very much, Dr. Das, once again. Now I would like to invite my next panelist guest, and she is Dr. Beena Tandon. Dr. Beena Tandon is MBBS, MD, Obs and Gynec, is renowned consulting obstetrician and gynecologist. She is the director of Krishna Lok Hospital, Lucknow. She is member of RCOG. She is member of IMS, AICBA, and FOGSI. She is ex-vice president LOGS. She is joint secretary of IHRF Lucknow. She is the chairperson of Medico Legal Subcommittee LOGS. She was the convener of Medico Legal Workshop AICOG 2020. Welcome, Dr. Tandon on our show. Dr. Tandon, you have heard what Dr. Vinita Das has explained, the myths. Now we would like to know your views about the infertility myths and facts. Dr. Beena Tandon, please.
First of all, I must thank all of you for inviting me to talk on such an important issue on this prestigious forum. अभी तक मिस्टर गोयल ने बहुत कुछ समराइज कर दिया है, डॉक्टर विनीता दास ने भी बहुत सारी इम्पोर्टेंट बातें ऑलरेडी कह रही हैं। कुछ चीजें मेरी रिपीटिशन हो सकती हैं, तो उसके लिए मैं क्षमा चाहूंगी। मैं मिथ्स और फैक्ट्स फीमेल इनफर्टिलिटी का पार्ट यहाँ पर आपसे उसके विषय में चर्चा करूंगी। अकॉर्डिंग टू वेरियस societies of assisted reproduction of India, the incidence of female infertility is around 14 to 17%, which means that about 28 million people of India are trying for a pregnancy. पहले भी लोग इनफर्टिलिटी के लिए आया करते थे, पर नंबर इतना ज्यादा नहीं था। हो सकता है कि वो हेजिटेट करते हों अपनी प्रॉब्लम को डिस्कस करने के लिए, लेकिन अब मीडिया की वजह से, डॉक्टर गूगल की वजह से इतनी नॉलेज हो गई है लोगों में कि वो अब हमारे पास आने लगे हैं, और हमें ताज्जुब होता है ये जानकर कि उनके दिमाग में इनफर्टिलिटी को लेकर कितने मिसकंसेप्शंस, कितनी रॉन्ग आइडियाज हैं, कितने फियर्स हैं। तो इसीलिए आज हम चर्चा कर रहे हैं इस विषय पर कि जिससे हम उनके कुछ मिथ्स को दूर कर सके और उन्हें फैक्ट्स बता सके, और फैक्ट्स जानने के बाद शायद उनका रिस्पॉन्स फीमेल इनफर्टिलिटी के लिए पॉजिटिव हो जाएगा। सबसे पहला मिथ जिसकी वजह से हम सबको गायनेकोलॉजिस्ट को बहुत कष्ट होता है जान के, वो है ये कि जब वो कहते हैं कि बच्चा नहीं हो रहा है तो इसके लिए इस औरत का ही दोष है। और कई बार पुरुष मैंने देखा है दूसरी शादी कर लेते, तीसरी शादी कर लेते हैं और फिर भी बच्चा नहीं होता है। तो इसका क्या कारण है कि सिर्फ पत्नी या वाइफ का ही दोष नहीं है। अभी आपने आंकड़े बताए हैं, मिस्टर गोयल और डॉक्टर विनीता ने बताए हैं कि करीब 35% स्त्री जो है वो रिस्पॉन्सिबल है इनफर्टिलिटी के लिए, और उतने ही 35% इम्पोर्टेंट मेल फैक्टर का भी रिस्पॉन्सिबल है। 20% ऐसे हैं जिसमें ओवरलैप है कि कुछ फीमेल का दोष है, किसी में मेल में फॉल्ट है, और 10% ऐसे लोग हैं जिसमें सब कुछ नॉर्मल है फिर भी वो कंसीव नहीं कर पा रहे हैं, और इसे हम अनएक्सप्लेन्ड इनफर्टिलिटी कहते हैं। अब जिक्र करते हैं कि इनफर्टिलिटी कितनी तरह की होती है। प्राइमरी इनफर्टिलिटी, जैसे मिस्टर गोयल ने बताया आपको, कि जब एक कपल ट्राई कर रहा है, 1 ईयर से ज्यादा हो रहा है और कोई कॉन्ट्रासेप्टिव मेथड नहीं ले रहा है, तो इसे हम प्राइमरी इनफर्टिलिटी के ग्रुप में डाल देते हैं। फिर आती सेकेंडरी या रिलेटिव इनफर्टिलिटी, जिसमें कि उस लेडी को एक प्रेगनेंसी हो चुकी है, चाहे वो फुल टर्म हुई हो या अबॉर्ट कर गई हो, लेकिन उसके बाद वो कंसीव नहीं कर पा रही है। इसे हम सेकेंडरी इनफर्टिलिटी कहते हैं। और तीसरी, जैसे मैंने अभी आपको बताया, अनएक्सप्लेन्ड, जिसमें कि कोई दोष नहीं है, कोई कारण समझ में नहीं आ रहा है, इसे हम अनएक्सप्लेन्ड इनफर्टिलिटी कहते हैं। तो जो मिथ था कि फीमेल पार्टनर इज रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर इनफर्टिलिटी, दिस इज रॉन्ग. The fact is that male is equally responsible. So when a couple comes, both should be evaluated and both should be investigated and treated as per the fault is. हमारे क्लिनिक में जब भी कोई इनफर्टाइल कपल आता है, सबसे पहले हम उसके हस्बैंड का सीमन एनालिसिस के लिए एडवाइस करते हैं उसको, क्योंकि ये एक सिंपल टेस्ट है, नॉन इन्वेजिव टेस्ट है और बहुत ज्यादा कॉस्टली टेस्ट नहीं है। इसलिए अगर मेल की रिपोर्ट नॉर्मल आती है तो हमें ये हम अश्योर आते हैं, तसल्ली आते हैं कि कम से कम 50% प्रॉब्लम तो नहीं है, हमें सिर्फ 50% पे ही ध्यान देना होगा। ऑन द अदर हैंड कई पेशेंट हम आते हैं जिनमें वाइफ के इतने इन्वेस्टिगेशन हो चुके हैं, इतनी दवाइयां खिलाई गई हैं, लेकिन एक सिंपल सा टेस्ट सीमन एनालिसिस नहीं हुआ है। तो दिस इज जस्ट लाइक अ क्राइम। ये ऐसा नहीं करना चाहिए, हमें रिवर्स ऑर्डर में चलना चाहिए। पहले मेल का रूल आउट कर लें, कोई फॉल्ट तो नहीं है, और फिर हम अपनी फीमेल पेशेंट पे ध्यान दें। दूसरा मिथ जो आता है वो ये है कि शादी के बाद कपल है, उनसे पूछा जाता है कि कितने साल हो गए अभी बच्चा नहीं हुआ है, तो बहुत ही रिलैक्स रहते, कहते हैं हो गई शादी भी 2-3 साल ही तो हुए, हो जाएगा डॉक्टर, चिल, हरी क्या है, जल्दबाजी क्या है, हो जाएगा, अभी थोड़ा लाइफ को एंजॉय तो कर ले। ठीक है, एंजॉय करिए, लाइफ खूब करिए, लेकिन एक चीज का ध्यान रखिए कि एक वेटिंग पीरियड भी एक होता है, जिसमें हम अगर कपल की एज 35 साल से कम है तो हम उसको 1 साल के लिए छोड़ देते हैं कि ट्राई करो, कोई मेथड ना लो। लेकिन अगर कपल की एज 35 साल से ऊपर है, स्पेशली वाइफ की, तो ये वेटिंग पीरियड फिर घट के 6 महीना रह जाता है। तो इसलिए मेरी एडवाइस है, फैक्ट ये है कि आप वेटिंग पीरियड ओवर होते हुए, जैसे खत्म हो वेटिंग पीरियड, अगर आप कंसीव नहीं कर पा रहे हैं तो आप फौरन एक फर्टिलिटी स्पेशलिस्ट को कंसल्ट करें, क्योंकि बहुत अच्छी कहावत है कि आप पछताए क्या हो जब चिड़िया चुग गई खेत। तो इससे पहले कि आपका खेत आपकी चिड़िया चुग जाए, आप जाग जाएं और फर्टिलिटी स्पेशलिस्ट को कंसल्ट करें। तीसरा बहुत कॉमन सा मिथ है, वो आजकल बहुत ही कॉमन हो रहा है, कि एज फैक्टर। इसके बारे में पहले भी कहा जा चुका है, लेकिन मैं फिर से दोहराऊंगी कि आजकल लड़कियां एक तो शादी देर से कर रही हैं बिकॉज ऑफ देयर एजुकेशन और बिकॉज ऑफ देयर करियर। उनका कहना है कि बच्चे हो जाएंगे, पहले अपने एजुकेशन पूरी कर लें और करियर में सेटल तो हो जाए। ठीक है, हो जाइए, लेकिन एक चीज का ख्याल रखिए कि आपकी ओवरी में एक रिजर्व है जो एक पर्टिकुलर एज के बाद कम होने लगता है। बेस्ट टाइम किसी भी कंसीव करने का है 20 से 25 साल की उम्र। उसके बाद ये फर्टिलिटी इंडेक्स घटता चला जाता है, और 30 पार करने के बाद जब कोई लेडी 35 साल की हो जाती है तो ये घट के 50% ही रह जाता है, और उसके बाद भी लगातार घटता रहता है। तो जो लड़कियों का ये मानना है कि हम कैरियर में सेट हो जाएं, उसके बाद हम 40 साल के आसपास भी प्रेग्नेंट हो जाएंगे, या आईवीएफ है, असिस्टेड रिप्रोडक्शन की टेक्निक्स हैं, उनको यूज कर लेंगे और हो जाएगा बच्चा, ये मानना गलत है। क्योंकि जैसे जैसे ओवरी एज करती जाती है, उसके अंदर जो एग्स हैं उनकी क्वांटिटी और क्वालिटी दोनों ही कम हो जाती है, क्वालिटी पुअर हो जाती है। इससे क्या होता है कि कंसेप्शन में उन्हें प्रॉब्लम होती है, और अगर वो कोई असिस्टेड रिप्रोडक्शन का ट्रीटमेंट ले भी रही हैं तो उसकी सक्सेस रेट भी कम हो जाती है। इसके अलावा 40 के आसपास पहुंचते पहुंचते कई मेडिकल डिसऑर्डर्स भी डेवलप हो जाते हैं उनके अंदर, जैसे डायबिटीज, हाइपरटेंशन, थायराइड एक्सेट्रा, और उनके साथ के चलते मेडिकेशन, जैसा अभी डॉक्टर विनीता ने बताया। तो अगर वो प्रेग्नेंट हो जाती हैं विद दीज कोमॉर्बिडिटीज, तो प्रेगनेंसी कॉम्प्लिकेट हो जाती है और उससे माँ और बच्चे दोनों के ऊपर बुरा असर पड़ सकता है। तो फैक्ट है, द अर्लियर द बेटर, डोंट डिले इट। इसके बाद अगला आता है बॉडी मास इंडेक्स का सवाल। कई बार कपल आते हैं मेरे पास, उनका वेट बहुत कम लगता है या बहुत ज्यादा लगता है। जब उनसे कहा जाता है तो कहते हैं कि अरे डॉक्टर, बॉडी मास इंडेक्स का फर्टिलिटीज क्या मतलब है, आप इसके बारे में नहीं सोचिए, आप हमारा इलाज करिए कि हमको प्रेगनेंसी क्यों नहीं ठहर रही। तो मैं उनको समझाती हूँ, बल्कि हम सबको उन्हें बताना चाहिए कि बॉडी मास इंडेक्स हैज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट रोल टू प्ले। A body mass index below 18 or a body mass index above 25, both are hazardous, because इन दोनों में एक तो जो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट हार्मोन है एक फीमेल में, जिसे हम ईस्ट्रोजन कहते हैं, इसके लेवल लो हो जाते हैं और इन्हें कंसेप्शन में प्रॉब्लम आ सकती है। ओवुलेटरी फंक्शन भी गड़बड़ हो जाते हैं। तो इसलिए हार्मोनल इम्बैलेंस अवॉइड करने के लिए ये जो BMI है इसे हमें एक रेंज में रखना चाहिए। बल्कि मैं तो ये कहूंगी कि जब भी कोई इनफर्टाइल कपल आपके क्लिनिक में आता है और उसका BMI आपको रेंज में नहीं लगता है, तो आप उसे सलाह दीजिए कि बिफोर ट्राइंग फॉर प्रेगनेंसी आप अपने BMI को करेक्ट कर लीजिए, अदरवाइज आपको सक्सेस नहीं मिलेगी और ट्रीटमेंट भी फेल करेगा और यू विल बी डिसअपॉइंटेड। तो ये तो रही BMI की बात कि फैक्ट ये है कि BMI डज अफेक्ट द कंसेप्शन रेट एंड सक्सेस ऑफ एनी फर्टिलिटी ट्रीटमेंट। नेक्स्ट हम चलते हैं लाइफस्टाइल मॉडिफिकेशंस के बारे में चर्चा करेंगे। सारी दुनिया बदल गई है, लोगों के पास हर तरह से साधन सुविधाएं आ गई हैं। उठने बैठने का कोई वक्त नहीं, खाने पीने का, सोने का, किसी चीज का नहीं है। कोई भी पार्टीज कर लो, अल्कोहल लो, सब्सटेंस अब्यूज है, स्मोकिंग है, ये सब चीजें चल रही हैं। एक्सरसाइज के लिए कहो, अब टाइम ही नहीं, इतना बिजी है, इतना सबका जरूरतें पूरी करते करते ओवर वर्क कर रहे हैं, कहाँ से एक्सरसाइज कर लें। ठीक है, मत करिए एक्सरसाइज, लेकिन आप ये समझ लीजिए कि ये जो आपका बिगड़ा हुआ लाइफस्टाइल है, ये आपके अंदर के जो इंटरनल एनवायरनमेंट है उसको भी बिगाड़ रहा है। आपके सब हार्मोन डिस्टर्ब हो रहे हैं, आपके सारे ऑर्गन डिस्टर्ब हो रहे हैं, एंड यू विल फेस विद सो मेनी डिजीजेस इन योर लाइफ सो अर्ली। जो आपके नाना नानी और माता पिता में जो बीमारियां 40-50 के बाद हुई, वो आपको 30 हो जाएंगी। और आजकल हम देख भी रहे हैं कि ये जो बिगड़ा हुआ लाइफस्टाइल है, इसमें यूथ ज्यादा सफर कर रहा है। तो इसलिए हमें उन्हें करेक्ट करना है। स्मोकिंग है, स्मोकिंग आपके वहाँ स्पर्म को भी अफेक्ट करती है, यहाँ ओवरी को भी अफेक्ट करती है कि उनकी एजिंग जल्दी कर देती है। तो इसलिए जंक फूड है, फास्ट फूड है, जिससे फिर BMI बढ़ता है। तो ये एक विशेष सर्कल है जिसे हमें ब्रेक करना है। एक चीज दूसरे को बढ़ा रही है और अल्टीमेटली क्या सफर कर रहा है? फर्टिलिटी ऑफ द वुमन। सो हमें इनको करेक्ट करना और उन्हें समझाना है कि लाइफस्टाइल मॉडिफिकेशन करने से आपको जरूर फायदा होगा। इन सब हार्मोनल इम्बैलेंस से हम देखते हैं आजकल PCODs है, एंडोमेट्रियोसिस जैसी बीमारियां भी लड़कियां लेके आ रही हैं, जो कि उनकी क्वालिटी ऑफ लाइफ को भी डिस्टर्ब कर रही हैं। और ये देखा गया है कि लाइफस्टाइल मॉडिफिकेशन करने से फर्टिलिटी इंडेक्स इम्प्रूव हुआ है, कंसेप्शन रेट बढ़ी है और चांसेस ऑफ IVF एक्सेट्रा भी इम्प्रूव हुए हैं। तो यस, द फैक्ट इज दैट लाइफस्टाइल मॉडिफिकेशन डज हेल्प और हमें इसके बारे में जरूर एडवाइस करनी चाहिए और सोचना चाहिए। इसके बाद एक मिथ यह है कि औरतें कहती हैं पीरियड्स तो हमें ठीक ठाक हो ही रहे हैं, फिर हमको कंसेप्शन नहीं हो रहा है, हमारे अंदर क्या खराबी हो सकती है, पीरियड्स तो हो रहा है। ठीक है, जैसी भाई उनकी नॉलेज है, जैसी उनकी इंफॉर्मेशन है, उस हिसाब से वो ठीक है। लेकिन हमारा ये फर्ज है, हमारी ड्यूटी है कि हम उनको इन्फॉर्म करें कि सिर्फ एक नॉर्मल मेंसेस होना ये प्रूव नहीं करता है कि तुम्हारे अंदर कोई खराबी नहीं है। नॉर्मल मेंसेस होने का मतलब ये है कि तुम्हारे अंदर यूट्रस है, ट्यूब है, ओवरी है, सब कुछ है, लेकिन क्या वो ठीक से काम कर रही हैं, इसके लिए तुम्हें इन्वेस्टिगेशन के लिए आना पड़ेगा और ये देखना पड़ेगा कि देयर इज समथिंग रॉन्ग विथ इट। तो जो फैक्ट ये है कि नॉर्मल मेंसेस डजंट मीन दैट द वुमन इज नॉट सफरिंग और हैविंग एनी प्रॉब्लम। फिर एक वर्ड हम कॉन्ट्रासेप्शन के लिए भी कहेंगे कि आज कपल को हम देखते हैं कि कॉन्ट्रासेप्शन के बारे में कोई ज्यादा अच्छी या प्रॉपर नॉलेज है नहीं, बल्कि मैं देखती हूँ उनके दिमाग में इतने डर है, मिथ्स है, मिसकंसेप्शन है कॉन्ट्रासेप्टिव मेथड्स के लिए। इससे वजन बढ़ जाएगा, इससे ब्लीडिंग होती है, इससे कैंसर्स हो जाते हैं, इससे फिर लेते रहेंगे तो फिर बच्चा कभी नहीं होगा। ठीक है, लेकिन अगर हम उन्हें ठीक से समझाएं, काउंसिल करें, तो उन्हें पता होगा कि अगर हम ठीक से कोई कॉन्ट्रासेप्टिव यूज करते हैं तो ये सब प्रॉब्लम नहीं आती है। और रहा पीरियड्स का, तो जैसे आप ओरल पिल खाना बंद करते हैं, आपके पीरियड्स दोबारा से स्टार्ट हो जाएंगे जैसे होते हैं। रहा सवाल इसका प्रेगनेंसी का, तो ये देखा गया है कि किसी भी पिल को बंद करने के बाद 3 to 6 मंथ में देयर इज रिटर्न ऑफ फर्टिलिटी और वो फिर कंसीव कर लेती हैं। बहुत ही अनफॉर्चुनेट कुछ लोग हैं जिनको पोस्ट पिल एमेनोरिया हो जाता है या वो फर्टाइल नहीं रह जाते, बट वो नंबर इतना कम है कि उसको इतना दिमाग में सोचने से कोई फायदा नहीं है, एक्सेप्शंस तो होते हैं और वो हर चीज में। ना इस्तेमाल करने के लिए कॉन्ट्रासेप्टिव पिल, उनकी एक और डिसएडवांटेज है, वो जब नहीं इस्तेमाल करते हैं कि दे लैंड अप विद अनप्लान्ड या अनवांटेड प्रेगनेंसीज, और उसके लिए फिर वो अबॉर्शंस कराते हैं। आजकल ओवर द काउंटर पिल सब मिल रही है, मेडिकल अबॉर्शन पिल, वो अपने आप वो लोग खा लेते हैं और फिर ब्लीडिंग करके आते हैं। कई लोग सर्जिकल अबॉर्शंस करा लेते हैं, डीएनसीज करा लेते हैं। इन सब से क्या होता है, उनके पेल्विक इन्फेक्शंस हो जाते हैं और ट्यूब ब्लॉक हो जाती हैं, और इसका परिणाम या रिजल्ट क्या होता है, दे लैंड अप विद इनफर्टिलिटी। सो द फैक्ट इज that proper use of contraception can protect them from infections and prevent infertility. इसके बाद एक और मिथ लेके फीमेल्स आती हैं कि एक बच्चा तो है हमको इलाज क्या जरूरत है, बिल्कुल ठीक है, हमारे कोई वो नहीं प्रॉब्लम, आप इनको देखिए। तो हमारा ये कहना है कि एक बच्चा हो गया इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि आपको आगे कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं हुई होगी। हो सकता है ड्यूरिंग दैट चाइल्ड बर्थ या आफ्टर दैट कोई इन्फेक्शन हो गया होगा, कोई हार्मोनल प्रॉब्लम हुई होगी, समथिंग मस्ट हैव हैपेंड जिसकी वजह से तुम दोबारा कंसीव नहीं कर पा रही उतना ट्राई करने के बावजूद। तो इसलिए जब उनका वेटिंग पीरियड खत्म हो रहा है तो बोथ हस्बैंड एंड वाइफ शुड बी काउंसल्ड, they should be investigated and they should be treated if there is any cause due to which she is not able to conceive second time. अगर कुछ नहीं है, सब नॉर्मल आता है तो ठीक है, रिलैक्स करो, चाहे दूसरा बच्चा करो ना करो कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, लेकिन इन्वेस्टिगेट जरूर कराओ अगर तुम दूसरा बच्चा चाह रही हो। इसके बाद एक बस लास्ट है डॉक्टर गोयल, मिस्टर गोयल, कोविड का आजकल इन्फेक्शन इतना ज्यादा फैला हुआ है कि लोगों के मन में भय है कि कोविड उनकी फर्टिलिटी को कम कर रहा है। तो फैक्ट एक लाइन में बस इतना कहूंगी कि कोविड हैज नथिंग टू डू विद फर्टिलिटी, नाइदर इट डिक्रीजेस फर्टिलिटी नॉर इट अफेक्ट्स द ग्रोइंग फीटस इफ द प्रेग्नेंट मदर गेट्स इन्फेक्टेड विद कोविड। तो इन सब शब्दों से अब मैं अपनी चर्चा को समाप्त करती हूँ और मैं आशा करती हूँ कि लोगों के मिथ्स दूर हो गए होंगे और वो फैक्ट्स अब जान गए होंगे। नमस्कार।
अब पछताए क्या होत है जब चिड़िया चुग गई खेत। Dr. Veena Tandon said this very famous quote because she says that she has made a very detailed analysis and why that there are myths about the female infertility. But one thing she has mentioned very clearly is that the new generation which are delaying for the childbirth, saying that now we are busy in the education, we are busy now, it's just married, we have to enjoy the life, once the child will come, what we are going to do, so why not? But she says that there is a time, always the best time for the fertility for a female is between 20 to 25. After that it started reducing. So according to her, one should not try to delay unnecessarily unless it is required. And she has also mentioned one very important point is the BMI. The BMI, the body mass index, according to her, less than 18 and above 25 is harmful for the fertility. And she says that BMI, the reasons for the BMI is the junk food, the fast food, and even she says that smoking is very harmful. So according to her, the lifestyle modification helps a lot as far as the female fertility is concerned. She has also mentioned what Dr. Das said, कि male is also responsible, rather both are insisting very clearly that the first male should be checked and then we must go for the female examination, because male have a myth that I am perfect, the fault lies with the women only. And she also said even if there are normal periods also you must get it checked because there might be some reasons. So never go for although she says the Dr. Google is beneficial for the doctors because now awareness, more and more awareness has been created in the society by Dr. Google and WhatsApp University. Earlier people were hesitant to come, but now more and more people are going to the doctor. So it is one way, it's a good marketing exercise for the doctors and more earning thing for the doctors. And she says even the contraceptives to be used properly, about the oral pill, she has explained everything. So all these things, she is very clear. And the last she mentioned about the COVID, she says no impact of COVID even for the child, even if she is pregnant at during that time. So that myth should go. Thank you very much, Dr. Beena Tandon. Today, you as well as Dr. Das has cleared so many myths. Time is short. Otherwise, I would have not shown my watch towards you. It's very, very, very improper from my side, but I have to justify the program with others because a live telecast, the time is limited. So that's that. Thank you very much, Dr. Tandon, for giving your views. Now, I would like to invite my next panelist guest, and she is Dr. Abha Bhatt. Dr. Abha Bhatt is DGO, MRCOG, PG, DCE. Dr. Bhatt is Senior IVF Consultant at ART Fertility Clinic, Mumbai. She is a reputable gynecologist working exclusively as a fertility specialist since more than 13 years. She has operated and has been instrumental in the running of many IVF clinics and is currently the Senior IVF Consultant at the state-of-the-art Mumbai Center of the renowned ART Fertility Clinics. She was graduated from SAIT GS Medical College and post-graduations from Lokmanya Tilak Municipal College and Hospital in 2000. She was trained further in ONG in various NHS hospitals, UK, after which she underwent training in fertility for a year at King's College Hospital, London in 2008. She has also completed hands-on training in clinical embryology, in which she was awarded gold medal in the qualifying examination. She is a life member of RCOG, AMC, AFG, MOGS, FOGSI, IFS, and ISAR. Welcome, Dr. Bhatt, on our show. Dr. Bhatt, you have heard the earlier panelists, Dr. Das as well as Dr. Tandon. Now we would like to know your views on infertility, myths, and facts. Dr. Abha Bhatt, please.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Okay. After the wonderful discussion on the myths and the facts in male and female infertility, I'm going to talk about the myths regarding fertility treatments. Logically, the treatment that is offered to patients depends on the reason which is behind the infertility. But this has to be decided only after complete evaluation of the couple. And this and so the treatments that can be offered are broadly 3 types. Those women who do not have regular ovulation, so do not have regular periods, we offer them a treatment called as ovulation induction. So in this treatment, we either give oral medications or injections, which makes the woman ovulate at least 1 egg and ideally no more than 3 eggs, so that she has a chance of conceiving naturally, or in this case, with some assistance. A prerequisite for this treatment, of course, is that the husband's sperm count has to be within an acceptable limit. In case the couple can't cohabit, then the patients can be offered a treatment which is called as IUI, or intrauterine insemination. In this, the motile sperms are separated, washed, and injected into the uterus around the time of ovulation. The third and the most famous fertility treatment that the patients worry about or are curious about is IVF, or test tube baby. In this, a woman is given injections to make her produce several eggs. These eggs are removed. Embryos are created using the husband's sperms. The embryos are then cultured, and the best 1 or 2 embryos are transferred into the uterus of the woman. If she has further good quality embryos, these can be frozen for further treatment. IVF also has a subtype which is called as ICSI, or ICSI. In those couples where the sperm count or motility, or where the number of normal sperms is low, we can select a sperm for each egg that is retrieved from the woman and fertilize it by injecting the sperm into the egg. The rest of the procedure remains the same as IVF. IVF, or ICSI, is offered to those people who can't ovulate, can't get pregnant after ovulation induction or IUI, or in whom infertility has been there for more than 3 years, in those couples where the sperm quality is poor, or in those women who have both tubes which are blocked. Let me now talk about the myths regarding the fertility treatments. I think my colleague has already talked about Clomid. In terms of women also, Clomid is quite rampantly given over the counter. Many women, I've seen people take 30, 40 packs of Clomid. Sometimes they lose count also. We have to remember the fact that it is not a magical fertility potion, and it is not without side effects. An important side effect of clomiphene is that it reduces the lining of the uterus, and it will not work if the sperm quality is low or if the woman's tubes are blocked. So what is important is that fertility specialist advice is sought and only the correct treatment is taken rather than just random fertility tablets taken over the counter. Myth number 2, IVF guarantees 100% success. In case IVF doesn't work, then there is no hope for the couple. Now, this is completely wrong. The fact is, success rate is approximately 50% per cycle in women under the age of 35. As the age of the woman increases, as Dr. Tandon has already mentioned, the number of eggs and the quality of eggs in the woman decreases. And so does the success rate of IVF. There are other biological factors too, which may impact. And therefore, it is very important that the couple are seen by an experienced IVF expert at a good IVF center for best chances of success. And even if it doesn't work the first time, they can discuss with their specialist as to further IVF being useful or whether they need to change their approach. Myth number 3, IVF frequently leads to multiple pregnancy. This is true, but this is true from the era where multiple embryos were transferred during IVF. We've moved on, we've got better techniques, and we have better success rate even when we transfer 1 or 2 embryos. And so elective single or double embryo transfer is better so that more number of embryos don't stick, because otherwise a multiple pregnancy puts the mother's as well as the baby's life at risk. Multiple pregnancy can, however, happen where in case of ovulation induction, where multiple follicles may grow and lead to multiple pregnancy. That has to be carefully planned by the fertility specialist. Myth number 5, egg reserve will reduce or finish if I have IVF. My antral follicle count is low. Doctor, if you do IVF, that means I'll have menopause next month. I've had patients who come and tell me this. This is absolutely wrong. The fact is, the eggs are present in the ovaries in the form of follicles. Now, a follicle is basically an egg which is surrounded by a layer of cells. And majority of follicles that are existent in the ovary at any point of time are in an inactive state. And these cannot be stimulated to grow. Only a small number of these become active, and this is beyond our control. And once they become active, they can be stimulated to grow. If they don't grow, they die. So whether or not you do IVF, the egg reserve would remain the same. Myth number 6, IVF means donor eggs or sperms are used. Fact, we can definitely do IVF using the wife's eggs and the husband's sperm, even if the woman has a low ovarian reserve or the man has an extremely low sperm count. We can often create embryos using what we have. Donor eggs or donor sperms are used only in very selective situations. For example, where the woman has had a premature menopause, or if no sperms are available even after trying a surgical retrieval. Myth number 7, all IVF clinics are the same. As is true for all medical facilities and treatment, Quality of IVF clinics and laboratories where embryos are created and cultured varies, as does the skill and experience of the doctors and embryologists who do the IVF. So all IVF clinics are not and cannot be the same. Myth number 8, IVF babies are born with congenital or birth defects. Fact, there is no difference in the risk of congenital abnormalities between babies that are born through IVF and those that are naturally conceived. There is a higher risk of abnormalities in babies born to women over the age of 35 years, or in those couples who have history of genetic diseases in the family, even if they conceive naturally. So when a patient sees a fertility specialist, they may be advised to have an advanced ART technique called pre-implantation genetic testing, which will help us check the embryos before they're transferred. And only those embryos which are normal will be transferred. So the couple's chances of having a normal baby can be optimized. Myth number 9, you can increase your chances of pregnancy by simply putting in more embryos. I have kindly covered this already, but I would like to reiterate, by increasing the number of embryos, the chance of pregnancy only increases up slightly, but this is offset by the complications that arise from the multiple pregnancy, putting both the mother and the baby's health at risk. So this has to be discouraged strongly. Myth number 10, embryo can slip out if you stand too quickly or if you go home after embryo transfer. Many patients even ask to be admitted after embryo transfer in the clinic itself. Fact, uterus is a muscular organ. Lining of the uterus is thick at the time of embryo transfer. The front and the back wall of the uterus actually touch each other and have folds within them. The uterus of a woman is also either tilted towards the front or towards the back instead of being upright. So any embryo that is gently placed in the uterus at the time of embryo transfer will usually stay there even if the patient gets up immediately after. Myth number 11, IVF pregnancies always lead to cesarean section. Fact, there is absolutely no need to do a cesarean delivery just because you have conceived through IVF. Your chances of having a cesarean delivery is no different even if you conceive naturally. So no need to get worried about that. Myth number 12, women undergoing IVF should be on complete bed rest because this improves success rate. There's absolutely no reason for complete bed rest after embryo transfer. In fact, I've seen patients go bonkers because they have nothing to do except worry, and stress themselves out. There have been studies which have shown better pregnancy rates in patients who resume normal activities immediately after embryo transfer when compared to patients who don't. Myth number 13, and I'm coming to an end, I promise. Frozen embryos are not as good as fresh embryos. With the advanced vitrification techniques that are available, frozen embryos are as good as fresh embryos. In fact, injections that are used to stimulate patients have an impact on the lining of the uterus, which is where the pregnancy happens. And therefore, instead of a fresh embryo transfer, if you choose to have a frozen embryo transfer, you might actually have a better chance of succeeding the first time. And that's about it.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Ava Bhatt, for giving your views. And her views are for the fertility treatment. And she has given lots of 13 myths she has quoted, and she mentioned all the solutions. Paucity of time, I will just highlight one or two. One is very, very clear that there is a myth that after the IVF, the cesarean is required. According to her, cesarean is only if it would have been in the normal case, in the without IVF delivery, or in the IVF delivery, the chances are the same. As far as the bed rest is concerned, she is totally against. She says no bed rest is required. People have that thing that I have done the IVF, so I will go for bed rest. It is not compulsory, and it's not at all required for this. And she has also mentioned one more thing. Don't think that if you are going for IVF, the success rate is 100%. No, it is not. It can be 50%. If you are below 35 and if your age is more, the female age is more, then definitely it will go down upward accordingly. So many myths which she has taken and she has clearly mentioned. I need not to repeat those things. Thank you very much, Dr. Aba Bhatt. I'm sure today all the three doctors have explained each and every aspect, male, female, as well as the treatment. So all the things about the myths and the facts have been explained. But now we are going to a very, very important aspect, because we all know that once the fertility is not there or the child is not happening, the main thing, the tension, the mental and the psychological problems starts, especially in India for the women, because everyone start, in Hindi we say ताना मारना शुरू हो जाता है, or we used to comment on the lady that she's like this, she's like that. And that is a very, very intolerable thing. So now I would like to invite my next guest, who is going to definitely explain about the psychological impact of the infertility and the myths and the facts. My next panelist is Dr. Rajiv Anand. Dr. Rajiv Anand is the senior psychiatrist and marriage counselor. Dr. Rajiv Anand passed his MBBS in 1976 and did MD in psychiatry in 1980 from King George's Medical College, Lucknow. He opted to serve his country when it was very common to settle abroad for brighter future. He has been serving society with his base in Mumbai. He has clients all over India, as well as in many other countries. He was honored with Lifetime Achievement Award by AMA. He has conducted more than 3,000 workshops for different group and companies with audience size of 10 to 800. His television program on various channels have been widely appreciated for his forthright and practical approach. He is leading in the field of mental and emotional well-being for 41 years. He was president of IMA for 2 times. He was interviewed in several talk shows in domestic and internationally. Welcome, Dr. Rajiv Anand. Dr. Rajiv Anand, you have heard all the panelists' expert views about the infertility. Now, your views on infertility myths and facts.
Thank you, Mr. Lal. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, please, go ahead.
It was really a delight to listen to Dr. Vinita, Dr. Beena, both celebrated gynecologists and infertility specialists from city of Lucknow, where I was fortunate enough to have been educated. And both of them, they happen to be my colleague during MBBS, and I'm proud of both of them. And also Dr. Aba Bhatt, MRCOG and many other degrees. And she's also very well known in city of Bombay. So thanks, Dr. Aba Bhatt, for accepting my request to be on this panel. And I got many new information today. I'm in the company of the 3 women, all expert in infertility. And being in the city of Bombay, practicing over here, almost every 1 kilometer, there are 2 or 3 gynecologists or nursing home. And I have had privilege of being associated with good number of gynecologists professionally, in the sense that very often they refer cases to me, at least 1 or 2 cases in a month. And I got the opportunity to learn from those cases, which probably I would not have learned from anyone. Now I'm just sharing a few of the things which would also dispel a few myths, which would also bring new clarity in the society, that every childless couple is not necessarily having a fertility issue. Well, many cases are referred to gynecologists or IVF specialist expert, and they go through extensive investigation very rightfully, very judiciously. Few cycles, attempt to help them get conceived, the infertility continues. And then they are referred to us. And when we inquire, in many cases we have found that they assume that their sexual life is very good, Well, it is not. Many people are ignorant about the time of the ovulation when they are supposed to have sexual relationship. Many people are not aware about how long they are supposed to remain so that the semen can flow inside sufficiently, or they are not supposed to withdraw immediately. And thirdly, very important point, which I would like Dr. Vinita and Dr. Veena and Dr. Abha to listen carefully. Due to multiple factors by the media or multiple pressures on every working person, or due to late night or overexertion, the sexual relationship word had been made very small, only sex. Relationship has been cut off. Sexual relationship had come down to basic sex, and that is a mechanical sex. That's what most animals do. So sex is more like a perfunctory or like a mechanical, like a masturbatory sex, devoid of the joy, devoid of the connectivity, devoid of the love. I call it loveless sex. Many couples are just doing sex for the sake of doing it because they have impulse or they have compulsion to take care of their wife's need, but they are not feeling connected. There is a loveless sex. In many such situations, many girls, they do not find certainty about their future. They do not feel connected to the husband, and they do not feel that very much celebratory or joyful receptivity we all know about when a uterus has to be susceptible or uterus has to be fully prepared to welcome the sperm to get conception. That's about the uterus inner wall, which all the three women sitting over here, all my three colleagues are expert in that. How about the mind? Is the mind receptive? Is the mind prepared? Very often it is not. I've also seen some cases where a girl or a couple in general, they were madly in love with each other. And so much so that they feared that if a baby would come, the arrival of the baby would diminish their love. As if silently they worked for not getting conceived. I have been associated with few couples when I have argued with them, tried to persuade them what would happen after 2 decades. Eventually, they conceded and they have a beautiful baby, many of them. I would also like to mention over here the conflict between couple, which is becoming commoner. All this is a part of psychosexual medicine. Conflict between couple, which often come as an emotional block. The girl does not accept the husband in totality. Being a woman, society expect, husband expect, at times her own hormonal needs may compel her to submit to husband's need of sex. Somewhere silently she is refusing for sheer the rejection towards the husband and as well as towards being a mother. And that also come in the way. I did mention that many girls, for various reasons, genetical, social, I may call it, somebody may agree, somebody may not agree. Their constitution is to have insecurity, uncertainty, instability. And as long as they are insecure or uncertain or unstable about their marriage, when they are not settled, when they are not stable, when they are not joyful, then as if somewhere there is a block in getting conceived. Furthermore, in many couples, despite having long, painful years of being childless, many years they have been childless, but somehow they have got so used to this kind of lifestyle, as if they have been locked into a comfort zone of being only two and don't want to come out of it, this comfort zone. And they're happy with being alone. They're happy with being two of them seeing each other without a child. society in general is changing much faster in the last 2 or 3 decades, as Dr. Vinita and Dr. Veena mentioned about it. Women's priority have changed. They have to get highly educated. They have to get settled in their career. And marriage is being pushed behind, and so is the child is being pushed behind. So what we think regularly, we clear the way for that. So surprisingly, and not so pleasant surprise, rather sadly, because I, being an old timer, still believe that nature has endowed women with a great function, which in a book which I had written on sex education for the young adults, I mentioned very proudly about it. The God is the best and the first creator, and he has deputed a woman. He has endowed a woman to carry out that function of being a creator. A man can never create. Man can create a bungalow. Man can create a factory, but can't create a baby. So woman is representative of the God, the creator, almighty creator. Every woman should look at herself top to bottom, every part of her body and every part of her being is essentially geared for being a mother. Fair enough, the certain prevalent notion the society made her look for higher education, followed by consequently settling down in a career and drawing higher salary. But then where have it taken them to? 35, 36, 37, 38, finishing half of their fertility scope, and they don't get married till the age of past 35 because they were busy in career. And then they also have a new notion, which all my colleagues would agree, we would freeze our eggs. It's not necessary to have marriage. It's not necessary to conceive now. We don't have time. We can't jeopardize our career at this point of time. We would freeze our egg 5, 10, 15 years later when we find convenient, then we shall bring a baby into this world. My own take on this is that are we not playing with the nature? For what? To gain what? To gain little more money? To gain little more comforts? To gain little more gadgets? To have little more bank balance? Are we not playing with nature? I have been interacting with people who have been 67, 61, 59, 55, 51, 49, 45, alone, single woman, childless people. And I have been knowing their pain from the first hand, what they go through. And they all say, why nobody guided us in time? Either their husband has left them or whatever happened to their marriage, but they are alone, or even in the marriage, many of them, they're in the marriage alone. There's nobody to connect to. Husband by the time has lost interest in the wife. So my take in the end is a request to everyone who is listening to this program, do not take this matter lightly, matter of infertility. It's not always female, don't deride her, don't scorn her, don't criticize her. It's a function between two, husband and wife. My request to every husband to treat his wife respectfully. Somebody may call it myself old timer. She has to be worshipped next to the God, a wife, and treat the relationship. You have to bring a new citizen in this world, and you are deputed for that. Mr. Lal, thank you very much. I'm also delighted that while conducting this program in the beginning, you do so much of research. I'm really impressed that you are almost going to become a doctor with so much of research you do on infertility.
Thank you, Dr. Rajiv Anand. What to do? I have to study those things which I have never studied. And I was sometimes thinks that if I would have studied in my childhood, like you said, the guidance is required. If I would have got this guidance at that time, I would have topped or I would have done more education. But one point which Dr. Rajiv Anand, I will just highlight is that God has created the woman, and as a creator, the woman is the creator. So once try to understand that you are a creator. So please don't delay the childbirth. for any excuses which we are taking that nowadays the girls are taking, and the man should respect, rather he used the word worship the woman as God. Thank you very much, Dr. Rajiv Anand. You are as articulate as you were always. Now my question goes to Dr. Vinita Das. Dr. Vinita Das, why when we are talking these myths, why it is not there in the public domain? Why the awareness is low? Is the government is also having that taboo fear or the taboo tag in talking openly? When we talk of everything like COVID, we are talking vaccine, we are talking, why we are not advertising openly about the infertility? Dr. Vinita Das, 1 minute answer, please. Time is short.
Thank you, Mr. Lal. I think a lot of being talked at the moment for infertility, but again, in our country, another important aspect is population explosion. Probably one of the factor for population stabilization comes on the front as compared to infertility. But I fully agree with Dr. Rajiv that our younger generation, they have to be made aware, they have to be counseled well in time, they have to give importance to relationship. I'm not saying that the education and the career should be kept behind, but all these fronts have to go hand in hand. To establish a family, to have a child gives so much joy in the family. What you get in your going high above the ladder in the career and education will be enhanced further if you have a company of a beautiful child and the relationship with your husband. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Das. Now my question to Dr. Veena Tandon. Dr. Veena Tandon, nowadays lots of talks about the Ayush and the Ayurveda and many things. Do you think they can replace, or they are really fruitful? Because there is a myth in the market that why to go to a allopathy doctor when Ayush ministry is promoting Ayush, and they are claiming that shartiya ilaj jinko bachcha chahiye. So do you agree with that?
Mr. Lal, being an allopath, I will always go for allopathy, क्योंकि हमारा जो एलोपैथी है उसका जो बेसिस है, साइंटिफिक बेसिस है, हम उसे जानते हैं, और हम उन दवाइयों के बारे में कोई कमेंट नहीं करेंगे जिनके बारे में हमें कोई नॉलेज नहीं है. बाकी क्लेम करना कि शर्तिया इलाज है, शर्तिया बांझपन का इलाज है, इसका ये सब बेसलेस है, क्योंकि अभी उनको प्रूव करना है, और हमारी जो मेडिसिन हैं उनको हम ऑलरेडी प्रूव कर चुके हैं. So I will go with allopathic medicines only.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Tandon. Now my question goes to Dr. Bhatt. Dr. Bhatt, there is a myth, or rather it is, I don't know, you have to clarify, that IVF is a very expensive thing. It's only for the rich class, not for the poor. Is it correct? And whether the insurance companies are covering this or not?
Thank you for your question, Mr. Goel. I think this is a very good question. I don't think insurance companies have started covering, but I'm aware of some corporates which cover their corporate employees for infertility treatment. As far as your first question is concerned as to whether this is expensive or not, I guess IVF can be a little expensive, but then so is raising a baby. And the second thing I would like to say is, if you have enough number of ovulation inductions or IUI, it can actually, make you pay more money in 10 IUIs than you can, you can probably do one good IVF and get pregnant in one IVF cycle than do 15, 20 less effective fertility treatments.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Bhatt. Dr. Anand, my question to you is only one. You being a marriage counselor, do you think that because of this infertility problem, the rates of divorce are more in India, is increasing, not more in India, but increasing because of the infertility is one of the reason, because they are coming to you and they are talking to you?
India is a country with a heterogeneous kind of people, all kind of people from metropolis, from the highest state of society to the lowest minimum. So there can't be one rule, yet infertility is one of the major reasons for the divorces. And community to community, section of society to section of society, it keeps on changing, but more people from the less literate background, they feel the worthiness of a woman is connected to her bearing a child and nothing more. Over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. So today you have seen, viewers, that the views represented by all the experts are so much enlightening that I'm sure that today's program is going to be in records, and people will get all the information sitting at home without consulting a doctor and removing the real myths by the top experts in today's. And today's program has been live telecasted by V4 News Global TV, V4 Stream, News Gaon Se, Malnadu TV India, Samvad Sarokar News, Bharat Post News, as well as it was shown live on Facebook and YouTube. And our endeavor is to bring to you every day new topic. But for last 2 months, we are doing an evening program called Kal Aaj or Kal Lal Hue Ke Sang, where we call a personality who has become a role model for the young generation. And today my chief guest is Mr. Pawan Chaturvedi, Managing Director, Bridge Bihar Group and Uma Motors, Mathura. And he will be telling his own life story. It's like his own autobiography from his mouth, from his childhood to his road to success. So thank you very much, Dr. Vinita Das. Thank you very much, Dr. Beena Tandon. Thank you very much, Dr. Abha Bhatt. Thank you very much, Dr. Rajiv Anand, for joining and giving such an enlightening thing. I'm sure many myths have gone, although time is short, so I have to stop somewhere. For that, my apologies. But I'm sure if it is like this, then we may conduct one more program with all of you, so that more and more whatsoever the myths have left, we will try to cover. Thank you very much, and thank you all the viewers for watching our show. Thank you very much.